Hari Om, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Together we will chant verses 11 to 20.
Gandhiji, today is 21 to 30. Gandhiji?
No, we have to do verse 20 today, Omkar. So that means 11 to 20.
Give me one second.
परं भावमजानन्तः मम भूतमहेश्वरम् मोघाशामोघकर्माणः मोघज्ञानाभिचेतसः राक्षसीमासुरीं चैव प्रकृतिं मोहिनीं श्रिताः महात्मानस्तु मां पार्थ दैवीं प्रकृतिमाश्रिताः भजन्त्यनन्यमनसः ज्ञात्वा भूतादिमव्ययम् सततं कीर्तयन्तो मां यतन्तश्च दृढव्रताः नमस्यन्तश्च मां भक्त्या नित्ययुक्ता उपासते ज्ञानयज्ञेन चाप्यन्ये यजन्तो मामुपासते एकत्वेन पृथक्त्वेन बहुधा विश्वतो मुखम् अहं क्रतुरहं यज्ञः स्वधाहमहमौषधम् मन्त्रोऽहमहमेवाज्यम् अहमग्निरहं हुतम् पिताहमस्य जगतः माता धाता पितामहः वेद्यं पवित्रमोङ्कारः ऋक्सामयजुरेव च गतिर्भर्ता प्रभुः साक्षी निवासः शरणं सुहृत् प्रभवः प्रलयस्थानम् निधानं बीजमव्ययम् तपाम्यहमहं वर्षम् निगृह्णाम्युत्सृजामि च अमृतं चैव मृत्युं मृत्युश्च सदसच्चाहमर्जुन त्रैविद्या मां सोमपाः पूतपापाः यज्ञैरिष्ट्वा स्वर्गतिं प्रार्थयन्ते ते पुण्यमासाद्य सुरेन्द्रलोकम् अश्नन्ति दिव्यान् दिवि देव भोगान्
We've been studying about how the Lord is all pervading. The most important thing to understand in these verses is he's only communicating one idea, that the Lord is all pervading. So, as we discussed yesterday, you must be able to make derivations from whatever you have studied. First, we have to identify what is the point, and therefore, if that be so, then this shall necessarily be so. It should be the way we go about it. So let's take this concept about the Lord is all pervading, Brahman is all pervading. So let's see, what is the derivation that we can derive from it? Of course, these are a little more difficult derivations because we are dealing with a more difficult text. But if you claim that the Lord is all pervading, first you have to just consider that idea a bit. Is the Lord all pervading? Is it possible that the Lord is not all pervading? What happens if you take the stance that the Lord is not all pervading? If you remove from him his capacity to be all pervading, think of what else will you have to immediately remove. Won't you have to remove his ability to know everything? Immediately you make him non-omniscient as well. And when you do that, don't you you remove his power from him? In the sense you say, if he's not all pervading and he's not all knowing, then how on earth can he be all powerful? So you immediately have to start removing many other characteristics from him. So therefore, you can easily understand that he has to be all pervading. Now let us say, for argument's sake, that we do take he's all pervading. Remember, we're only discussing these ideas, we're not accepting these ideas. We could be completely wrong. Okay, this is just our surmise of it. So we could be entirely wrong. So now let's see, let's make the Lord all pervading. Now what happens? If you make the Lord all pervading, then immediately you can understand that there's no such thing as a holy place and an unholy place, because he's there everywhere. How can where he is become unholy? Also, what else do you understand? You understand that no being is divine or devil, because the Lord is there. So if I then claim to love the Lord, will it not automatically follow that I would have to love everybody and everything? Love the sinner and saint alike? So once you start getting a better grip of the idea, you'll begin to see that when people are saying many, many different things, such as the Lord is all powerful, or you must love everybody, or, like anything, you find they're all working themselves back. They're basically saying the same idea, that the Lord is all pervading. Because you have thought this through and realized that unless this is so, those can't be so. So therefore, if anyone says that is so, then he automatically has to imply that this is so. Is this making sense to you all? And that's how you study Vedanta. You don't study Vedanta like only very inspired with all these wonderful ideas, but you examine these ideas. Are they true? Now, who will decide whether they are true or false?
You yourself.
You yourself. You take a call. Today, very sweetly, somebody on the YouTube channel had asked, is it true that reincarnation exists? It's Vedanta's job to teach us that we don't ask people these questions. The kind of question we can ask is, what is the reason for reincarnation? We can ask a question like that. Why would you hold the belief that reincarnation exists? But we cannot ask the question, is it true or false? Because it's true or false is something I'm going to say. I can understand from you what is your reason, but I will have to take the call on whether I'm going with your reason or not. This application to life is what Vedanta should teach you. It's an application that you make with your intellect. It's not your intellect sitting on a high chair somewhere and issuing some judgments on us. Oh, this is bad, don't do it. This is good, do it. No instructions, there's no force. There is no force being applied. Not from outside of you and not from within of you. It is just a comprehension of what is happening. And if you understand that, what is the fight for? I mean, fight between the mind and intellect. If there is a fight between the mind and intellect, it only means I have not yet understood. Is that clear? Anybody has a problem with that? I'm just trying to put the yesterday's class back into some focus so that we know what we are doing when we study Vedanta. We are not here to sort of swallow a bunch of information that somebody gives us. That's absolutely not what we are doing here. We are learning how to apply our intellect to whatever it is that we hear, not just in class, but anywhere. Is that clear?
Yes, absolutely clear. Thank you.
Okay, so now in verse 19 or in verse 80 or in any of these verses, what is he trying to tell us is a simple idea that Brahman is all pervading. The Bhaktas will say the Lord is all pervading. The Jnanis will say the Brahman is all pervading. The Vishnu Bhakts will say Vishnu is all pervading. The Shiva Bhakts will say Shiva is all pervading. Christians will say God is all pervading. Muslims will say Allah is all pervading. Arey Baba, everybody is saying exactly the same thing. Nobody is saying anything different here. So the Lord is all pervading. That means if you look at nature, He is there in every cycle of nature. I give heat. I withhold and send forth rain. These are the various cycles that are taking place in nature, right? It gets hot and the heat builds up enough. Then there is rain. When the heat goes away, then the rain goes away. You know, it's a cycle that goes on. And it's the early man's way of understanding that I am not this individual, this body, mind, intellect is not the sole determiner of what happens around. There are patterns that are going on everywhere. Whether you're a good person or whether you're a bad person, summer will come and winter will come. This summer and winter coming has got nothing whatsoever to do with what I have done. They will come regardless of how I behave. So one very important aspect of our education also has to be, for what am I the cause and for what am I not the cause? Things are happening, you know, when we say everything is happening by the law of cause and effect, and I am the cause of it all, then we misunderstood the law of cause and effect. it's a great lesson to say that regardless of me, this is going to happen. I am not a participant in these things. However, I am a participant in some things. And therefore, I must know the difference. If somebody is a very hot-tempered person, then there is only so much I can do in this person's presence because I cannot control his hot temper. He is following his own cycles. I don't have to bend backwards for this. So these cycles will go on, whether they are the natural cycles that remind us that we are not the center of this universe, that everything is not a result of something that we have done, that my role is indeed rather small in this whole thing. I'm just a very tiny part. A tiny part that needs to play its part, but its part is not the determiner of what happens. And that allows us to segregate ourselves a little bit from our attachments. Because whoever or whatever we are attached to, wherever we have our desires, we are making a demand. In psychology, there's this term magical thinking. We studied it in when we were doing How Do You Know What You Know, if you remember magical thinking. Magical thinking is just it's just having assumptions that will not hold up under scrutiny. Like, for instance, suppose I pray for the rain to come. This is called magical thinking. Why is praying for rain to come magical thinking?
Because it will rain when it has to.
Nothing I can do that can make it rain or stop raining.
Because it's not in our hands.
Nothing
It's
I can do.
false predictions that we are making.
More than false predictions, it's like magical thinking. I mean, it requires magic for this to actually happen. How can it be? Suppose now I say, I wish it was night. And I pray fervently that it is night. Is this even going to happen? Cannot be. You can understand that, right? And yet, if I ask a carpenter to be a plumber, if I ask a hot-tempered person to be sweet-tempered, if I ask a toxic person to be non-toxic, a hateful person to be non-hateful, is this also not magical thinking? So why am I assuming I have a role where I don't have one? So the Bhaktas call it the power of the Lord. The Jnani calls it the law of causation. All the same thing. It's our recognition that in these things, I don't have a say. I don't have a say in who my child wishes to marry. I can try my best to make that person marry somebody or not marry somebody. But in the final analysis, I won't really have a say. And that is the learning we get. That is the learning early man got from just watching the cycles of nature. And if you go back to Rigvedic times, he called this power Varuna. Varuna in the Puranas became a fairly unimportant god. But in the Vedas, he's a very important god. In the Puranas, he's only shown as the lord of waters and stuff. But in the Vedas, he's a very frightful god. He's a god with whom there is no forgiveness. It's very, very strict. And he knows everything that you're doing. And he knows it because he has spies everywhere. And the Vedic seers spoke of him with fear. What is there to be feared in this world? Is there's a very strict governor, a very strict law of causation that will follow it, and it knows exactly what you're doing. I mean, it's not a poetical way of putting it, but you must understand it, that cause and effect will have its way. You have to understand it. And what is the role you are playing in that, which you'll get only through understanding, not through anything else. That I am immortality. I am death. This is all rather, what should I say? It's very interesting if you try and figure out what it's really talking about. I am immortality. I am death. It is like saying, I am the manifested and I am the unmanifested. You know that famous bhajan which we had, Ekatu Rama, Anekatu Rama. You are that one and you are the many. So what is death? Death is what happens to anything that exists in this world. Anything, any object, any being in this world is subject to death. Death meaning change, meaning end. So everything that changes, that ends, means any substance in this world is me. And that which exists beyond the world, beyond the change, that is also me. So when he says all pervading, he's expanding our concept of all pervading. We seem to think all pervading means all over the world. Because in our concept of things, there is nothing beyond the world. No, that's what he's trying to say. See, when I say all pervading, we'll say what? That he's everywhere. Everywhere means what? In the world, right? No, he's not just in the world. He's way beyond the world as well. So I am death. I am immortality. I am being. I am not being. I am the existence and I am the non-existence. You can take this in any way. You can take it existence as waking and dream, where you can see some existence, and deep sleep as where you cannot see existence. You can take this as any way that works for you. But the bottom line of everything that he's telling us is that
He's all
All
pervading.
pervading.
all pervading. All pervading, in and through every experience, every change, everything that we resist and everything that we accept, he is there. Verse 19 clear? Anybody has a question with reference to verse 19?
Hari Om, ma'am.
Janki ji, oh sorry.
Yeah, I
With
don't know
regards
who
to the law
who's
of
this?
causation. Ajay.
Ajay. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Where does the law of causation cease to have an effect? Is it while you are identifying with the body, mind, and intellect, or even once the self has been attained, the law of causation continues?
Law of causation will always continue as long as the world exists. Wherever there is world, there is cause and effect. Now, what is important for us to know is which part of this cause and effect thing do I have something to do? For instance, the man of realization understands that he has got nothing to do with it. If you remember chapter 5, the Pashan Shrunvan Sprishan Jigran. Remember chapter 5? Seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling. I have nothing to do with whatsoever. Today, at our level of growth, at least we should be able to segregate ourselves from something. Now, rain is coming, not coming. Economy is doing well, not doing well. There's not very much that I'm doing in that, right? So I can segregate myself from some things. But the man of realization can segregate himself from all things, including what his body does. Means he is not seeing himself as a participant in that cause and effect. Clear or not?
Ji, got it. Thank you.
Janki ji, to this question itself, I just want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
You had given an example about COVID, and you said that the whole humanity is responsible for it. So how do we then understand where to segregate and where not to segregate?
Yeah,
As an
all of you.
individual?
Yeah. As an individual, how much can you do? Or if you study Vedanta, okay, and you become even a person of realization, what can you do? You cannot control COVID because it is 7 billion versus you. 7 billion humans are doing stupid things. And it doesn't require 7 billion to do stupid things. If 5,000 human beings are doing stupid things, we will all pay the price. So similarly, we can go the other way. Say 5,000 humans are doing very good things, all of humanity will benefit. We can go the other way too. And then we can say, okay, so let's try and get these 5,000. 5,000, I just picked up an arbitrary number, okay? So let's do this. Instead of saying, let's stop the bad guys from doing the bad stuff, why don't we say, let's get more people doing good stuff because it'll balance it out. Because you have no control over the bad people doing bad stuff. If those are their vasanas, they're going to do it at best to catch a few, you put them in jail. While they're in jail, they won't do it. They come out, they'll do it again. But even if you pick the whole lot and put them into jail, which you won't be able to do, they will all automatically spring another 5,000 who will do this because that's just the nature of the world. So let's strengthen the good. I mean, you can work like that, but you can't work directly. Okay?
Yes. Okay, Janki ji, thank you.
Yeah, Jyoti.
Yeah. About the law of causation that you spoke about. So is it wrong for, let's say, if everything is going to happen the way it's supposed to happen in its own pattern, is it wrong for people to pray for something?
No religion tells you it's wrong to pray for something. Please go ahead and pray. The reason that they tell you to pray is because at least in that time, your thought will be on God. However, this thought which is on
But
God,
like people have...
the thought which is on God is an impure thought. Because you're not only thinking of God, but you're also thinking of something else. So if you want to pray well, think just of God. Don't think of anything else because that's a pure prayer. You understand purity, right? Purity is that alone. Gold is pure. If there's only gold, copper is pure. If there's only copper. So your prayer is pure. There's nothing other than God in it. But if you say God is in it and God, I want to do well in my exams is in it, then your prayer has automatically become impure. So why would you want to do an impure thing
that
when
I
you
got.
might you are pure? So is it wrong to pray? Of course not. Impure prayer is better than no prayer, but pure prayer is better than impure prayer.
But like people do like group prayers for somebody who is sick, for example. So is that also impure prayer?
Definition, but it's purer than praying for yourself. Instead of going to God and say, "Mujhe ye do, mujhe ye do," at least you are saying, "Acha, inko ye do." This is so much. You got that much better, but it's still impure. But it's purer than the earlier form. So you see, everybody is where they are, right? We're all somewhere on the spiritual path. So the guru's job is to give you next step. Every guru's job is to just make you go to the next step. That's why you should not listen to what gurus tell other people, because for you that may not be the next step. So so some gurus
Thank you.
will take the stance, go pray for everybody else. Okay, then pray for everybody else. But
then,
it,
do those prayers make an impact on the person's health or not?
No, of course not. How can your prayers make
That's not our problem.
No, it can't do it. It's all they've done is forced you to think of God. How can that be possible? How can I pray now for rain? And even if I pray for rain, how is that rain supposed to come? This is all magical thinking. Okay, I'll pray and then this will happen. No, it won't. Suppose I pray now, it should become night. It won't. But if I'm a small child, then I'll pray for night, I'll close my eyes and say, "See, God answered my prayers, it became night." No, you closed your eyes, dummy. No, but sometimes teachers have done that. They have said, "Yes, okay, let's pray for night, it'll become night. Now everybody close your eyes." Now they won't do it in such a way, but that's what they basically did. They faked it. Just to give you the power of God, really. But there's no way that anything you can do that can break a natural pattern. It cannot be done. If you believe it can be done, it comes under magical thinking. It means that you're egoistical to think that your anything matters. This is the childishness that we have. And some people say, "My God listens to me." This person is still 2 years old. He'll grow up one day. And it's necessary for a 2-year-old to believe in that. We tell children ourselves, we tell children all sorts of things. Santa Claus will come, we put all nonsense into their head. And then one day they find out, oh, there's no such thing. Santa Claus was mommy and daddy. My father used to give me such lovely gifts because of Santa. I bet it was my mom, but I knew her writing and I didn't know his. So the gifts had his writing. And I was so impressed with this Santa Claus. He always gave me whatever I wanted. A damn cool guy, I thought. How does he even know? I'm just like really impressed with him. They put it into my head that there is a Santa Claus. And then somebody told me that there is no Santa Claus. And I refused to believe it because what nonsense, he gave me the gift.
Santiji, I had a question.
So you grow up, then one day you realize, phone hota nahi hai ye. Okay, anyone else has a question on on this verse?
Janki ji?
Janki,
Okay, I can't see y'all because I didn't have internet today, so I'm doing this on my phone, so I can't see anybody. So you have to tell me who you are.
Janki ji, Ashya.
Bolo Ash.
Isn't prayer a karma also? So therefore it would have an effect?
Yes. Correct. So,
So there would be a cause and effect relationship?
correct. All correct so far. Now, go ahead.
So when we pray, it could get a result.
Yes, possible. You
So
said
you're
could,
saying,
remember? So I'm saying possible. Yes, possible that you will get the result. Correct. Then?
so you are saying ki it may not get the desired result. Is that?
No, you may get the desired result also.
Okay.
Cause and effect. Think this thing through. Every action that you have will have an effect. You have thought of God, so you have strengthened the thought of God. You have also had a thought about that particular object, so you have strengthened that particular object, the thought of that object. That is the cause and effect. When you have strengthened the thought of that object so much, when you have a strong thought, this becomes a desire, and a desire leads to
Action.
action. Action leads to
word.
Result.
result. So why won't your prayer have a result? Of course, it can have a result. If you did the work, of course you'll get the result. Why won't you get the result? So therefore, yes, it's possible that your desire will be fulfilled because you did the work. If you did it correctly, you will get the result. If you didn't do it correctly, you won't get the result. If you have believed that God is going to help you get the result, then to that extent, your mind would be calm and you probably do a better action. So again, you have improved your possibility of getting a better result. But all this is to do with you, nothing to do with God.
Yeah, it's got to do with law of karma, no, Janki ji?
Yeah, assuming you perform the karma, you're clear about how that works, right? Okay, so I have strength. When I pray for something, I ardently pray for something to God. I have done two things. I've strengthened the thought of God and I've strengthened the thought of that, whatever it is I want, to this X thing that I want. Now, if I'm praying for multiple things, then I will, which most people are doing, then I will have strengthened the thought of God a lot more because I've repeated the thought of God more than I have repeated the thought of the multiple things. But if I'm praying for one thing, then I have strengthened the thought of God, no doubt, because I'm thinking of God along with that thing. And I'm also strengthened the thought of that particular object X. When I strengthen the thought, it will take me to action, and action will bring a result. If I have believed very strongly that God is going to help me do it, this is my belief. I prayed to God and now He's going to help me. I believe this. Then I will have the confidence, the peace of mind to do the work. In which case, I'll get a better result. So you must understand how the law of cause and effect works. If you just say law of cause and effect is just a generalization.
Okay,
If I ask,
Yeah.
if I ask you, how does water get hot? And you tell me you apply heat, then this is nonsense answer, right? I mean, I asked you, how does it get hot? So obviously there's heat. So, but how does that heat make the water hot? If you're going to answer it by saying law of causation, that makes no sense because you can answer every question like that. Why does applying heat make water hot? Because it creates the friction of movement. That's the answer. Otherwise, you just generalize or you apply heat, it gets hot. I mean, like, that's a nonsense answer.
Yeah. Thank you, Janki ji.
Who else was saying something?
Yeah, this is sorry.
Sorry, please say your name.
Yeah, this is Kalyan Janki ji.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So the thought, I mean, the concept that there is causation or something which is everything is all pervading and hence things will happen versus the understanding that you are also responsible for your actions, that sense of personal agency, because these two things keep coming up in the Gita. So I'm still not able to reconcile this, that at what level is the first one operating and at what level is the second one, that you are responsible for your actions.
You are responsible for taking your life to a productive end. Nobody but you is responsible for that. Is this clear?
Yes, yes.
You are responsible for taking your life to a productive end. However, your life does not exist in a vacuum. There's stuff happening. In and through that stuff, you have to take your life to a productive end. But the stuff that is happening has nothing to do with you. In other words, the rains will come, people will get irritated, people will be born, people will die. So many things are happening in this world which have got absolutely nothing to do with you. You have to take your life through these various, often erratic happenings to a productive end. That's your job. Okay, so when I was young, my mother used to put it like this. At that time, I didn't think much of it, but now I can see deep sense in this. She says, life will deal you the cards. Your job is to play them well. What cards come to you may not be your choice, but how you play them depends on your skill. So basically, improve your skill. So there is life going on, and you are there. There is generally life and nature and everything going on. And now you are a single individual player in that. You cannot determine the whole, but you can determine how well your life goes, how your individual life goes. Is that clear?
So you're saying at the individual personal level, you are solely responsible for that, but there are many other things which the Brahman or Atman is, for which you have no response. I mean, you can't impact that.
Yeah, there'll be many things in your life over which, I mean, okay, there is COVID going on. Okay, we had no way of controlling whether it is going on or not going on. But we can live our life properly while it is going on. We could have lived our life properly before it came along. And if we had lived our life properly before it came along, then during COVID, its repercussions on us would have been less.
Yeah. Okay, Janki.
Hariom Janki ji, can I ask a question?
Yes, but please identify yourself because I'm not sure I can identify every voice. So please identify yourself. Otherwise, you all will think I'm partial in recognizing some voices and not some others.
Not at all. Thank you. My name is Swapnil Janki ji.
Okay.
There is this concept of personal God. And it's also a concept which Einstein used to believe in, apparently. So how do you look at that in the concept of the larger God?
The concept of the personal God is like a crutch. When a lame person walks, he cannot walk, so he takes a stick. But if his leg becomes okay, he can throw that stick away. You cannot make a law that nobody should use a stick to walk, because then how are the lame people going to walk? A lame means he's fractured his leg or something.
Right.
And neither can you make it a law that everybody should use a stick to walk. The rest of us whose legs are fine, why should we use a stick to walk? So personal God is what you require when your intellect is not capable of conceiving the all-pervading reality. And if it is not capable of conceiving the all-pervading reality, how will you make that mind think of it? Can't conceive it. How will you make that mind think of it? So you give a crutch. That crutch is called the personal God. With the help of that crutch, this person one day will grow to be able to conceive the all-pervading reality. Just as if you give a person whose leg is hurt in some way a stake, and then he walks around with it, after some time he's able to throw the stick away.
Correct. Correct. So there's nothing right or wrong. It's just a stepping stone to understanding the larger reality over a period of time.
I mean, it's just like when a child draws a house, you know that house they draw, every child draws, it's got like one upside down V, and then it's got a box at the bottom, and they say it's a house. So you cannot deny it's a house, but if that same child grows up to become an architect and now draws the picture of a house, it's a different house, right? And yet, what will you say about the first one that child drew? It's a house, yes, it's a house. But it's limited portrayal of that house.
Correct. Thank you. Hari Om.
Okay, so are we done? Can we go on to verse 20?
Yes, thanks.
Okay.
Janki-ji, I think we had started 20 and left it midway.
It started 20?
No. We had started 19 and left it
No,
midway.
we had started 20, but we just hardly did anything.
Started 20, is it?
Yes, Janki-ji, we had spoken a little bit about the som, the herbal juice.
Oh, okay, then. Okay, sorry, Omkar. Then you were right. It was 21 onwards.
Janki-ji, I don't think you had done entirely the 20th verse. You just had started it.
Yeah. If you have started, then so the deal is if we've started it, then when we chant, we chant the verse which we have to start now. So if we've chanted it already, then let's do verse 20. Traividya. Traividya means Traividyaha are the knowers of the three Vedas. We should have done that, right? We did three Vedas because the first three are considered ancient and are considered authentic. The fourth Veda is also ancient because this is all thousands of years ago, but comparatively it was less ancient. The first Veda, which was the Rig Veda, and basically the other Vedas largely just repeat the Rig Veda. The Rig Veda gave the hymns. The Yajur Veda gave us the use of those hymns in the Yajnas. And Samaveda gave us the music that then later on started, in the sense those hymns were sung to a music. So then later on, but doing a yajna is a massive affair. It involves many days and things like that. You can compare it to a 5-day cricket match. So it's a massive thing. It goes on over days and it involves so many people. And the Atharvana Veda, the fourth Veda, is you can compare it to the T2. So it's quicker, it's expected to get its results faster. It does not have to involve maybe so much expenditure and time and all of that. So the first three Vedas can be done. Basically, you must have the money for it if you're going to do that. And the Atharvana Veda is more for everyday people. What they ask you to do is much smaller in nature. And their problems are also more common problems. Like in the yagna can be done so that rain comes. But the average man is not concerned with rain comes. He's concerned with things like I'm not well, I've got fever, and stuff like that. So a lot of medicine started in the Atharvana Veda. It's also known, by the way, as the Vaishajya Veda, means the Veda that talks about medicine. And it gives upais for various things, like things that deal with everyday issues that people have, not some grandiose plans of kings and universities and things like that. So Traividya refers to the knowers of the first three. Somapaha. Somapaha means, Soma means the drink called Soma, and Paha pa means drink, to drink. It's a samas. The letter pa indicates to drink because it comes from the root word pa pibati, to drink. Like how ja means to be born and nya means to know, pa means to drink. So somapa means he who drinks, and somapaha is those who drink soma. So you'll see this word often like padapa. Padapa means pada, you understand, right? Pada means foot. Pa means to drink. So padapa. So what is a padapa? Who drinks through his feet?
Trees.
Yes, that's right. So the Sanskrit word for trees, one of the Sanskrit words, is padapa. He who drinks through his feet. So, or the word madhupa. Madhu, you understand, honey. Pa is drinker, one who drinks. So who's madhupa?
B.
B.
The bee. So this is how, it gets interesting in Sanskrit grammar, how they just add something and change the meaning of a term. Like ga, for instance, means gachati, to go. So naga. Naga means does not go. So who is this who does not go? It is the mountain. The mountains don't move, right? So the naga is a mountain, the one who doesn't move. So these are all interesting constructs. So somapaha literally is the drinkers of soma. But now what is soma? Soma is a juice that is drunk at the end of the yajna. Indra, the god of the Vedas, was a great drinker of soma. So obviously soma was offered at the yajnas. And so eventually, who's going to drink the soma at the end, right? All the people who did the yajna. So soma paha means, therefore, those who did the yajna, because you got the soma drink only at the end of the yajna. So basically, those who are doing the yajna. Puta papaha. Puta papaha, whose papas are purified, finished. Yagnehi ishtva swargatim prarthayante. Yagnehi, by sacrifices. Ishtva, having worshipped. Swargatim, to go to Swarga. Prarthayante, they pray to go to heaven. So what is the purpose of the yajna? Is why are people doing all this worship in this world? To go to heaven. To go to heaven means what? To obtain the fruits of their desires. So here are the three types of people who are reading and studying the Vedas, doing the yajnas, all for the purpose of attaining heaven, meaning all for the purpose of fulfilling their desires. Te punyam asadhya. Asadhya, for those who have been studying Sanskrit, it's the Labhyanta form. Punyam asadhya, having reached Punyam, Surendra Lokam, that holy world of Surendra. Sura are the Devas, Indra is the lord of the Devas. So you've reached Surendra Lokam, the place or the experience of the lord of the Devas. In other words, you've reached a very happy and blissful experience. Ashtanti, they enjoy Divyan Divi Deva Bhogan, the divine pleasures of heaven. So what do you think he's saying? Have you thought about what he's saying? He's saying you did the yajnas, you got purified of your sins, you enjoyed this divine bliss and divine pleasures. Do you think he's saying good things?
No.
Right? No. Now let's do verse 21 so that you'll understand what he's saying in verse 20. Etam bhuktva swargalokam vishalam Shine punye martalokam vishanti evam trayi dharma manuprapanna gata gatam kama kama labhante etam bhuktva swargalokam vishalam Shine punye martyalokam vishanti evam trayi dharma manoprapannaha gata gatam kama kama labhante. So what do these people labhante? Labhante means they obtain. What is it they obtain? Tetam bhuktva swargalokam vishalam. This, by the way, is a very famous verse. Tetam bhuktva. Te, they, tam bhuktva. That having enjoyed swargalokam vishalam. The vishal swargaloka, the immense bliss and pleasures of heaven. Shine punye. When their punya gets over. Martyalokam vishanti. Enter the world of the mortal men. Means you do all your religious things, you feel so lovely about it, but then what? You come back to normal, ordinary existence. Evam trai dharma manuprapranna. Evam, in this manner, those who are following the injunctions of the three means those three Vedas that we spoke about. What labhante? What do they labhante? What do they obtain? Gata gatam. Gata agatam. They obtain the state of going and coming. So you do your yajna, you do your puja, you do your ritual, you go to your temple or church or mosque, you feel wonderful, you do your bhajans, you feel so sweet, so nice. Or you do some good work for somebody, you feel so lovely and then what? Martyalokam vishanti. Come back to normal life. So such persons have obtained what in life? They have obtained the state of going and coming, going and coming, going and coming. A mature person does not live life like that. A mature person lives in a steady state. So when you read the previous verse, you say, oh, very good, you do yajna, you go to heaven, you obtain your desire. Wonderful. And the next verse, he just kills the whole thing. He says, Katagatam kama kam halabhante. Those who are the kama kam, those who are the seekers of the objects of desires, and therefore are seeking God, they attain the state of going and coming. Means they do not attain to any stable, mature. Okay, so we'll go into this a little more in depth next time.